Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
Off and running, welcome in. Wednesday edition here of After Further Review. Musso in for Moscona. Braxton Rizzuto, Cassie Spazzali along for the ride. And glad to have you along for the ride here as well. We're halfway through a holiday week here as we embark on the 4th of July this weekend. Jam-packed show here for you, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness, obviously here on this Wednesday. Shea Dixon, he'll be here in, call it 13 or so minutes. Jaden Anding, supposed to announce his commitment on the Rival Summer Signing Day series today. Didn't. Postponed it. We'll ask Shea the latest there and, of course, touch on a whole bunch of other tidbits regarding LSU's recruiting as the dead period's here, but that doesn't actually mean with commitments and things of that nature. It's really heating up as there's 3 big ones for LSU coming up here in the coming days. So we'll get to that with Shea. In that same vein, On3 today did an awesome piece regarding NIL and the month of June and spoke to a lot of general managers across the Power 4 leagues anonymously, and they revealed some pretty interesting things about the numbers, the market, and positions in this class, one of which that's been under the microscope for LSU. So we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show as well. Plenty of Saints talk and whatnot, and we will talk a little bit of World Cup today, as the United States actually does have a game at 7 p.m. We'll save that for later in the show, but we will get to that. So let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
I want to start, though, with the New Orleans Saints because look, you're in that lull right now in the NFL where you're waiting for training. Many camps have broken. You're waiting for training camp to get underway, and this just really is talking season for the NFL. Ben Solak over at ESPN today released 10 bold predictions for the 2026 NFL season, and the Saints are involved in this. I won't bury the lead anymore. Benjamin Solak's bold prediction involving the Saints is that New Orleans will win the NFC South. I have thoughts on that, and actually a couple disagreements with maybe some things that Ben does say. I think the New Orleans Saints are more than capable of winning the division this year and making the playoffs for the first time in 5-6 years now. That to me is absolutely on the table. And to me even is a fair expectation. But what I will say is, just as an aside, really, I don't really know if this can be classified as a bold prediction anymore. It feels like there's a lot of people starting to get on the Saints train as a team that can win the division and for many different reasons. But Benjamin Solak, that's a national NFL voice who is hitching his wagon to the New Orleans Saints. So when something like that happens, we're obviously going to talk about it. It was interesting. He noted in his write-up that there were 3 teams tied at 8 and 9. So while the Saints actually finished 4th, you could really say they finished 2nd technically in the NFC South because you had that many tied. So going from 2nd to 1st instead of worst to 1st, but you get to do it with a 4th place schedule. And that's really intriguing because it's not just what the Saints have built around Tyler Shuck, right? It's not just the expectation that everybody has for Tyler Shuck. Goes 4-1 down the stretch, from week 9 on, he was your starter, put forth some really nice numbers with a mash unit around him from an offensive line, from a wide receiver position, and he had 0 running game to speak of. And Tyler Shuck put the team on his back, made winning plays, and he did so behind a really good defense. And that's really where Solak started this, was talking about Brandon Staley's defense down the stretch for the New Orleans Saints. And look, man, I understand that, and they were really good. He notes the Saints were 13th in DVOA a season ago, 6th in success rate. Only the Seahawks and Broncos allowed explosive plays at a lower rate than the New Orleans Saints. Those are two really good defenses. But if you're going to look at that, and you're going to use that as a reason to point to and go, man, one reason the Saints are going to be really good and this year is that defense. Look what they did down the stretch. You also have to point to the teams that it came against down the stretch. And that's kind of just been the catch-22, if you will, when talking about this New Orleans Saints defense. I mean, if you look at Tyler Shuck's starts for New Orleans, that started in week 9, you see the Rams, and then the rest of it is just teams with losing records. So that has to be factored in there. The other thing is when he signs off here on his write-up, says Saints look like an ascendant team to me. They have a young quarterback good enough to win with sharp coaches on both sides of the ball, good offensive line play, and enough young bets at the skill positions for the offense to do more than just Olave. They're a few blue chip players away, but a measly NFC South, 4th place schedule, division title, achievable. He also mentioned in there that he trusts Brandon Staley to field another top half of the league unit. That's where I look and I go, okay, but are we sure? I think the New Orleans Saints offense is going to take strides. 100%. I firmly believe that. I believe Tyler Shuck takes another step. By all accounts from his offseason, it's been fantastic. He said that. Kellen Moore has said that. They have really focused on being able to watch his own film. He's been a tireless worker. They asked Tyler Shuck his offseason plans, like for this little 6-week stretch that they're in the middle of right now, between minicamp and training camp, like, hey, what are you going to do? You finally have some time off. And the first thing out of his mouth is, well, Drew Brees set up a throwing thing for us in San Diego with all the receivers. So we're going to head out there and really, do that. Maybe watch some movies, maybe play some golf. But really, we're going to go throw the football around. Like, biggest jump year 1 to year 2. You can even argue he didn't even have a full year. So this is probably really kind of, year 1.5 for Tyler Shuck. Chris Olave, Jordan Tyson. You invested 3 picks in wide receivers, including Tyson. What you did along the offensive line with David Edwards. You bring in Travis Etienne. Like, they're going to be better offensively. And it's reasonable to think they take a jump. Defense is actually where I am concerned. Because of what you lost. And one area you failed to add in. Demario Davis played over 1,000 snaps for the Saints a year ago and was awesome. Over 130 tackles, highest mark in his career. There was just an article about him the other day where he spends over $1 million keeping himself in shape. Like, yes, he was aging. They decided to get rid of him. That's fine. You can maybe replace some production. Like, I think Caden Ellis can have a good season. I don't think Caden Ellis is going out there and having 130-plus tackles like Demario Davis just did. But what you really lose there is the leadership. That matters. Yes, Cam Jordan is back, and that's huge. But it's kind of the stuff that Demario did off the field that makes me worry a little bit about that unit. And then, obviously, yes, his production. Alontae Taylor, that's a big loss too, man. That's another guy who played over 1,000 snaps for the New Orleans Saints a season ago. Another guy who is steeped into the culture, leadership aspect, things of that nature. That is concerning. Now, I do believe that Jonas Sanker can fit very well into that star role, right? Where Taylor excelled, slot corner, all of that. I think that transition can be fairly seamless. Especially you still have Justin Reed and others, veteran guys on the back end to play the deep safety positions. So that's fine there. But the other angle of this is the secondary, where Mickey Loomis, Kellen Moore, they both said it post-draft. They were hoping to add a cornerback in the draft, and the board just didn't fall for them the way they wanted to. So you're going to run it back with Kool-Aid McKinstry and Quincy Riley, and there was a lot left to be desired there. There is a lot left to be desired there with your young corners. They're going to have to get better. You added a veteran in free agency. It's fine. But those guys are really going to have to get better. So what I look at is the Saints, how you replace DeMario Davis, leadership and production. You're going to have to use a bunch of guys to really replace their production. It's going to be spearheaded by Caden Ellis. But the other thing on the back end of that is pass rush. And we talked about this the last time I filled in for Matt, where we broke down, do the Saints have enough pass rush? And yes, I think that they do. But it's really going to have to be on full display to maybe make up a little bit what you lack at cornerback. They have the makings of a good defense, but I think it's premature to just say, oh, yeah, with everything they lost and a failure to really add a difference maker at corner or a potential difference maker at corner, I think it's premature to sit there and say, I have no doubt they will be a top half of the league defense, because a year ago, in the first half of the season, they were atrocious defensively. Down the back half, when the schedule lightened up, they were much better. They're going to have to put the much better part together through the course of the whole season, and they're going to have to do so without linchpin players that have been a big part of success in New Orleans. So can they win it? Yes. Do I think that's a fair expectation for the Saints to win the division? I do. But I lean more towards it being done offensively right now at this point in the offseason than I would defensively. We'll have more on that because there has been an odds change for the New Orleans Saints when it comes to win total, division, and all of that. So I want to circle back to that and get into more of how the division sets up potentially for the New Orleans Saints as well in tandem with them potentially winning. So we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. Right now, we're going to grab a break. We'll come back on the other side. Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. He will be with us. Talk some recruiting. It's been a busy day with some news around LSU. We'll get the latest from Shady next on AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by Glow Resources. If you are a business owner, if you're an HR manager, a VP, an ops manager, if you're the person in charge of hiring at your job, at your place of business, and you're having trouble finding the right people, you need Glow Resources. And I want to remind you, Glow Resources, they're exceptional when it comes to skilled blue-collar workers and also white-collar divisions. Remember, Glow Resources has a full professional placement division. So we're talking about office administrators, executive-level assistants, assistant controllers, plant managers, scheduling assistants, basically any type of office job. Accounting, HR, marketing, managerial, supervisor roles. If you're having trouble finding those people and sometimes hard to fill roles, Glow Resources specialize. They recruit nationwide. For example, they had a Baton Rouge company that was looking for an engineer. They found the employee in Florida to work the job in California. It's Glow Resources. Check them out online today. glowresources.com.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Official visit weekends, those are in the books. Recruiting dead period, but recruiting never actually sleeps, and neither does Shea Dixon. That's why he joins us every week here on AFR. Normally Tuesdays, couldn't make it happen yesterday. Good enough to bump and join us today. Shea, we appreciate the time as always, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Moose?
I'm doing fantastic. Short week here for all of us, but no shortage of topics, which is always a good thing. All right, Shea, let's kind of dive right into it, and we'll start with Jay Nanding. He was supposed to announce today on the Rivals Summer Signing Day series on the YouTube channel around 12:30, and he didn't. He postponed his announcement. What's the latest you can tell us there?
Yeah, and really, he's got a top two of only LSU and Ole Miss, and he had only visited Ole Miss one time, and there has not been much buzz out of Oxford about him potentially going there. Obviously, his brother Aiden is on the team right now at LSU as a cornerback. His injury was a big talk in the spring with depth. He stayed here, didn't transfer or anything like that. And then they've got the number one tight end in the country committed from Ruston, and Ahmad Hudson, and a handful of other offers out. So I think this might just be Jaden and his camp kind of ironing out all the details. It'd be a bit surprising if this took a turn into some other direction in the 11th hour. But yes, he was debating announcing today, and then he locked it in with us, and then he said he wasn't quite ready yet. So it's almost one of those, I think, any minute things. I think by even tonight, if he put out, if Hayes tweets out a graphic tonight that Jaden Andings committed to LSU, it would not shock me. So I don't think that's one where a lot of teams are pulling him in different directions. I think it's more just them crossing the T's and dotting the I's here down the stretch.
All right, so we'll look forward to that. So you said as soon as tonight, potentially. We won't hold you to that, obviously, Shea, but as soon as tonight. So it doesn't really sound like there's anything to anything to really worry about there with Jaden Anding.
It hadn't seemed that way.
Okay.
Now, obviously, you would have loved to have him commit at 12:30 as planned, but he's like I said, with that much stock invested in Ruston, with his brother on the team, with them really putting this much into his recruitment, and with no safeties committed, he's been a priority for him. So I don't think that they're going to turn away from that, just because he's delayed it a few hours. But we're going to keep tabs on it.
Let's move to Thursday, Shea. And I know a guy that y'all put in some predictions to for LSU was Davion Jones. We've talked about him plenty here on this show. Seems like there's some South Carolina buzz now around the North Carolina prospect. What can you tell us there with Davion Jones?
Yeah, this is one where I think you're looking at in the 11th hour what is, and Davion is originally from South Carolina, what is kind of the home state, home area team do. And South Carolina's ponied up in a big way on the NIL front right now. I mean, remember the name Josh Dobson, who everyone thought would go to LSU, and then maybe it was A&M. He's trending to South Carolina here in the end. So from what I've gathered, Moose, and this is just me putting the pieces together, I think when Davion Jones called all the teams to inform him of where he's going, South Carolina said, okay, sit tight. And within about 24 hours, there was a new offer out there to the East Coast four-star prospect, to which, unless we see LSU make a massive move here on the NIL front, and I know they've been in talks with Davion and all of that, but when he announces tomorrow, if things were to go as they were right now where it stands, he would wind up picking South Carolina, which would be a definite reversal of the direction he was going, let's call it just 24 hours ago. I mean, Monday night, this one pointed directly at LSU, and they were gearing up for an announcement on Thursday. It was a big reason he was going to announce at the end of the month. He pushed it up, made his pick, and then I think he kind of had another South Carolina come at him one more time, and that might be enough to get the local team over the hump. So we're going to monitor it, but I have a feeling here if things continue as they are, that he might end up with the Gamecocks.
Seems like a lot of home schools have been able to do that here in the NIL era, Shea,
Yes.
where they're just able to come in the 11th hour with a little bit bigger bags. Just modern recruiting, you deal with it. That leaves Greedy James, though. Greedy James, of course, is still committed to Texas at the moment. He's going to make an announcement, though, on Thursday, and that one seems pretty heavy in LSU's favor. You correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you are correct there. And I would say that anytime a kid makes an announcement and he's committed to a school already, it's probably not good for the committed school. But I don't want people to carry that over into Jalen Brewster or Easton, any of these other guys who are committed and feeling out their process. But Greedy James is someone we knew. I mean, he made official visits to LSU and Notre Dame, and then he went to Texas on the final weekend. And even then there was some buzz around LSU, but then it really heightened after that. This is a kid coming out of Manville, so it's a massive program over in Texas. And Corey Raymond, look, Texas has him committed as a safety. That's where he's ranked as a four-star. But Corey Raymond has recruited him at corner and has kind of done that from the start. And I mentioned before on the show, his dad, Greedy James's dad, is from New Orleans, graduated from St. Aug. His uncle graduated from St. Aug. So he's got Louisiana ties here that are more than, not I'm going to say more than enough, but are more than just how did they flip a kid from Texas? How are they going to go about and do that? Was it just money? No, it's, I think, one, development. I think this is a kid who's buying into the Corey Raymond DBU philosophy. And the other is having those connections to Louisiana. Kind of made that official visit, as he told us, kind of really comfortable for him, his parents. His uncle was on the visit too, so you had a couple St. Aug grads on that visit. And this is one where I think Texas had to shift and go ahead and They added Brandon Sherrard today at corner out of the Pearland area, right outside of Houston, Shadow Creek. But because of that, I think it's kind of drives home the reality that Texas does not expect to be able to keep Greedy James. And when he announces tomorrow, I fully expect the pick to be LSU, and that would give Corey his two cornerbacks, and then we see if they add any more from there.
I wanted to ask you about that specifically with the secondary. So that would give Corey two cornerbacks. Let's say they land ending and they don't land Davion Jones. It gives them one safety. Shea, there, you're expecting to lose Ty Benefield, obviously, after one season in the NFL draft. Marcus Cooley will be out of eligibility. How much do they want to add in the safety position here in this class? Because let's say they just get Andy, and that gives them one so far.
Yeah, I mean, they'd like that too, because obviously they have
Yeah.
been after Davion Jones. So I don't know if they come back around to someone else. Obviously, you can. They're going to wait out and see what Jones and Anding do here shortly, and then you can pivot and go from there. But I'll say that at corner and safety, these are two rooms that even you and I could look at it as they go through spring ball, but like I've talked to enough people that they feel comfortable about it. I mean, they signed Jace Thomas out of Destrehan, and he's a backup right now that they have a lot of faith is going to grow into a starter. You look at what they did in the portal. I mean, they went and got Delane's little brother. He was a top 100 prospect that signed with Ohio State a year ago. So guys like that aren't even going to start for you. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Deshaun Spears, right? Like maybe this year we get a taste of those guys. They come in as the first guy off the bench, and then after that they can work themselves into starting roles. And I say all that to say that there isn't an anticipation that anybody you're signing out of high school in this class would have to come in and start for you right away. So you get a guy like Anding, and maybe you add one more, and you feel good about just continuing to build depth. I think that's kind of been the play at corner and safety here late in this cycle is how do we add just depth pieces that we can feel good about, that we can coach up, and then after a couple of years or a year or two, they're out on the field. So much like a Spears was coming out of Denham Springs. So I would think two at each spot, but let's see how it unfolds here because we know in this era they aren't going to take guys just to take them because you can always go back to the portal. So if you feel good about your depth, we'll see how they navigate it moving forward. But I do think two at each corner and safety was the goal, and I would presume that kind of remains the goal.
Talking with Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Of course, you can get him on Twitter at Shea Dixon with us every week here on AFR. All right, Shea, what can you tell us with Jalen Brewster? Seemed to be a lot of smoke around him today with LSU kind of maybe being the biggest threat to Texas Tech. Is there anything new, anything impending there with LSU's pursuit of the number one player?
Yeah, so let's start. The number one player in the country, number one D lineman. This is what Lamar Brown was a year ago. Lamar Brown was right here in Baton Rouge. Brewster's been committed to Texas Tech for a while now, and that very first weekend Coach O got hired back, he was put together an official visit, and I think that really is when things clearly started to heat up. And Florida was the other team. Texas has been a team that's kind of been mentioned in the main group of teams that are threatening Texas Tech here for a potential flip. But over the past couple of weeks, it's become more evident it's LSU versus Texas Tech at this stage. And so evident that a couple of Texas sites were writing yesterday that he's expected to, if things continue down this path, flip from Texas Tech to LSU. And everybody was kind of like, why are y'all talking here? You're not involved in this. Hey, the Longhorns are going to take shots at Texas Tech when they get them. So it appears that's what they're doing. I don't think anything happens today. Steve Wiltfong right now in the Bengal Tiger, you can go read about it, caught up with the Brewster camp, and they went on record about things and had a lot of high praise for LSU program, Lane Kiffin, Ed Orgeron, Kevin Peoples, who's led that recruitment as LSU's defensive tackles coach. And we see, and look, I'll say that I think within the next couple of weeks, I'll expand it to that Brewster says one way or the other, hey, this is what I'm doing. But even as his dad said in an article today, like I said, we have on the site, that's not going to stop anybody from calling him, whether he stays with Texas Tech or flips. So they're going to have to deal with this through signing day. And that's just the nature of being the number one overall prospect. But I will say that this drives home kind of that Billy Glasscock, who's LSU's new GM under Lane Kiffin, this NFL approach of they are putting a lot of value into premium positions, whether it be quarterback, receiver, edge rusher, D tackle. Those kind of, when you look up at an NFL draft, like who's getting picked in the top 10 to 15 picks. Well, it's those positions, offensive tackle. And there really hasn't been a bunch of offensive linemen out there this cycle that
Yeah.
really warmed up to LSU. So I think once they realized, hey, Josh Dobson is getting a little pricey, even though he's a corner, you're good at corner. Like you've got DJ Pickett, you've got Woodland, and they love Haven Finney, and you've got some other guys there. So you're fine there. You don't need to pay a guy a lot of money to come in and sit the bench. So that's something Billy Glasscock has talked about is they're not going to pay. Even Lane Kiffin has said, we're not getting into NIL discussions with guys who are asking for top end type of NIL money if they're not coming in and impacting us in year one, because Moose, what happens? You come in year one, I've given you a lot of NIL money. You're standing next to me on the sidelines all year, and then you hit the portal.
Yep.
And now I've given you all this money. I've developed you. I've done all this, and it's all for naught because somebody else gets the benefit from it. So we saw them pull out of the Josh Dobson race. They're not pulling out of the Brewster window. And we know Texas Tech's got some money. Having his commitment's been a big deal for them. Certainly they've been dealing with a lot with all the Sorsby stuff. But if he does wind up making a move, I think it will come in the next couple of weeks. And right now, it's very clear it's LSU or Texas Tech. And good time to have Coach O on staff, I guess, to help chip in with Kevin Peoples there. But at the end of the day, I think this is one. When you're the number one player in the country, most of your conversations at the end up between an agent and a guy like Billy Glasscock, who's your GM.
Last one for you, Shane. I'll kind of just leave it pretty open-ended for you. Anything else you really need to cover with the flips? I know there's a lot of guys that LSU has been in on trying to flip them. Any more traction, any updates with some of the big names?
The other big name I'm going to watch this month is Eastern Royal. And coming out of Brother Martin, number one receiver in the country. And we know that LSU's been after him heavily. We know that, look, what Lane Kiffin did in the portal, do you think in his first recruiting cycle that he'd love to lose the number one player in the state to another SEC team, to Sark, someone he's had a long relationship with, and again, a receiver, so someone that Lane could utilize in his offense, as talented as Royal, is not someone you want to let go. And we've talked about it before. Texas got him committed 2 days before Lane got hired. So seeing him make that official visit, a bunch of unofficial visits, all that to LSU is good. Now you're just wondering, does he flip? And a lot of people think he might, and that it could come this month, but we don't have anything from his camp yet by way of a date or what could possibly be going down there. Florida is in the mix, but I still lean LSU. I think come signing day, whether it is this month or later, I still stand by that. I think Eastern Royal winds up at LSU, and for a lot of reasons, but one being that I just don't think LSU is willing to or wanting to miss out on a guy like this in state in that first recruiting cycle. And what can you do to go out there and get him? And I think that's what they've been exploring, just like Jalen Brewster here over the past few weeks. Royal's a difference maker. If he came in, he's not sitting on the bench. He would play right away for you. So he's one of those guys where even if it is top NIL dollar, you continue on with it, even more so given he's a Louisiana kid.
He is Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Of course, get him on Twitter X at Shea Dixon with us every week here on AFR. Shea, we appreciate the time as always, man. We'll talk next week.
You got it, brother. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. That is Shea Dixon. His time very much appreciated. Grab a break, but first, Matt, about Relief Windows.
Brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. When we talk about Relief Windows every day, I always say windows, doors, siding. And now shutters as well. They do your indoor shutters. Same thing as the windows. Custom made, measured to fit your windows, custom fit for your windows, lifetime warranty on your windows, your shutters. But Brandon, you often hear say their number one product is customer satisfaction. And that's not just a catchy line. That's not a cliche phrase. Have an experience with Relief Windows and you'll understand. They go to the ends of the earth to make sure their customers are thrilled with the work they do. As a matter of fact, Relief Windows never takes $1 from you. You will not, no deposit, no down payment. They take all the risk. They will not take a dollar until you're thrilled with the work they do. Who else does that? Only Relief Windows. Check them out online at reliefwindows.com.
All right, we're going to grab a break. We'll come back on the other side. We will go around the SEC. It's a Wednesday edition of AFR presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Stick around.
AFR.
DuplessisPools.com, DuplessisPools.com, DuplessisPools.com. Go to DuplessisPools.com and start building your dream pool today. DuplessisPools.com. Hat tip to my friend Derek Duplessis and the great staff, as for the second consecutive year, Duplessis Pools was named a top 50 pool builder in America by Pool and Spa magazine. As a matter of fact, Duplessis Pools was the only pool builder in the state of Louisiana to receive that honor. DuplessisPools.com is the website, DuplessisPools.com. Yesterday was awesome. Me, Erica, Drew spent part of our Sunday cooling off in the pool. Might have had a cold Bud Light or two. It's a great way to spend those summer days. Great way to have parties, showpiece. That dream can be your reality as well. But start at DuplessisPools.com. You can design your pool online. You can finance it online. Pay for it right now. It's DuplessisPools.com. Check them out online. It's DuplessisPools.com. Tell you every day, better coverage for less money. And man, my friends over at Insurance Network of Louisiana are crushing it for Louisianians on their auto insurance right now. Listen, if you have not had anyone shop for your auto insurance lately, you got to call Insurance Network of Louisiana. My goodness. They got some top-rated companies, Geico, Progressive. They're doing awesome work right now. This was an amazing story that I heard. They wrote one last week, saved the client $2,911 annually. They had a high auto rate with State Farm. They smashed it with Geico. They had another one save $1,476 annually with Progressive. They had Allstate and switched. Y'all, I tell you all the time, if you're just auto renewing your insurance, man, you're probably overpaying and you're underinsured. Let Insurance Network of Louisiana help. lainsurance.net.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Continuing here on a Wednesday edition of AFR, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Go to yourgoodwood.com. Still a lot that we want to get to here. Oh, man, one unit on the New Orleans Saints that maybe isn't getting enough talk this year that really hampered them a year ago. We're going to dive into that special teams unit a little bit. We're going to dive into that and kind of, man, have they made the necessary improvements? We'll do that at the top of the next hour. Looking forward to that conversation. And then something I found really interesting, CBS Sports kind of did a college sports year in review where they looked at the athletic programs that performed the best. So I want to kick that around a little bit there at the bottom of next hour also. Just kind of found that intriguing when I was just perusing some things today. So kind of a little light, fun summer content there. For now, though, we're going to go ahead and go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference. The Auburn Tigers.
Four-star defensive lineman Marquise Evans has committed to Auburn out of Spain Park. That's in Hoover, Alabama. Chose the Tigers over Tennessee, Florida, Miami, and South Carolina. He committed in the Rivals Summer Signing Day special. Number 35 edge in the country, 6'5", 270-pounder. He is the 25th commit for Auburn's 2027 class.
The Texas Longhorns.
Shea alluded to it there in our previous segment, but Texas landed four-star cornerback Brandon Sherrard out of Pearland, Shadow Creek. Chose Tigers over LSU and Oklahoma. Also did it on the Rivals YouTube channel in the Summer Signing Day series. 6'1", 180-pounder. He was in Austin this past weekend for his final official visit. Number 158 prospect overall, number 21 cornerback, and the 21st ranked player as well out of the state of Texas. Brandon Sherrard to the Longhorns.
The Missouri Tigers.
Missouri picked up a commitment from 2027 wide receiver Trey Britton III out of Belleville up in Michigan, 3-star. Chose Missouri over Miami and the home state Wolverines. 5'11", 170-pound slot receiver, totaled over 1,400 all-purpose yards and 14 scores in his junior season. Number 93 wide receiver in the Rivals industry ranking. 11th player ranked out of Michigan.
The Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Brian O'Connor in Mississippi State baseball landed transfer righty Thomas Allen out of Louisiana Tech. That came Tuesday evening. Freshman year, a year ago with the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. 5-3 record, 19 appearances, 18 of those out of the bullpen, 49 strikeouts and 48 in a third. Conference All-Freshman, second-team freshman All-American by the Writers Association, now Mississippi State Bulldog.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
My papers are stuck together. Now I see why Matt crumples them up and throws them at the camera. Blake Grimmer is returning to Tennessee baseball in 2027. He is officially withdrawn from the Major League Baseball draft, redshirted in their 2024 National Championship season. Hit 283 with 13 homers and 36 RBI in his first full season as a starter a year ago. Will most likely be the starting first baseman for Tennessee here in 2026. There you have it. That is around the SEC. This is after further review. Musso in for Moscona. Speaking of Moscona, a quick word from him on Parish Restoration.
AFR is brought to you by Parish Restoration. Kill mold, remove odor, other harmful pathogens, commercial or residential. As a matter of fact, Parish Restoration, I love the process, by the way. If you go to the website at parishrestoration.com, you can see videos of their patented non-toxic dry fog treatment. So you see exactly what it looks like. Very cool. But they have fogged, over at Parish Restoration, they fogged one of the largest buildings in the entire state of Louisiana. So it doesn't matter if it's your office building, your church, whatever it may be, school, or your home. They can even fog your car. Maybe your car has a weird odor, musty smell. Maybe you bought a used car from a smoker and you can't get that smoky smell out. This will do it. They'll come while you're at work, fog it. By the time you're done with work for the day, boom, you're back in a clean-smelling, fresh-smelling vehicle. It's Parish Restoration. Learn more at parishrestoration.com. Parishrestoration.com. Do business with someone you know. Parishrestoration.com.
All right, thanks, Scone. Even when Scone's on vacation, he's really still here. You kind of can't escape him. He's kind of just always there lurking around. Bringing us the live reads as always here when I'm in the chair. Later in the show, I kind of touched on this earlier, but give you a little bit more. We're going to do this at 5 o'clock on 3 today, and Shea kind of brought up some of the numbers too when we had him on in the previous segment. On 3, Pete Nakos had a comprehensive piece about spending, NIL spending in June, and he got multiple Power 4 GMs to go on record, even giving numbers and talking about how those numbers are being used and how money is being used in different ways here, resetting of the markets, shutting down recruitments, all of that. It was fascinating. So I'm really excited to talk about that. And there is a couple of LSU angles in there as well with numbers being mentioned that I'm excited to dive into as well. So if you have to leave, come back. We're going to do that straight up 5 o'clock here on AFR. And that's a conversation that I'm actually really looking forward to. I read it and I was super, super intrigued because anytime you can get, and obviously the GM spoke with anonymity, but anytime you can get those type of guys who are in the fire in all of this, go on record and talk about their own experiences with players that they were recruiting, things of that nature. That's always insight that you don't normally get. Pete Nakos was able to get it. So we're going to dive into that again, 5 o'clock. If you have to leave, make sure you're back here for that because, as I said, it was fascinating. Right now, we'll grab a break. We'll come back on the other side and close out hour number 1 of AFR, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness.
After further review.
AFR is brought to you by the Watermark Hotel and the Renaissance Hotel, 2 beautiful hotel properties in Baton Rouge, the Watermark downtown, the Renaissance Southtown right there on Bluebonnet. And when it comes to hosting your event, both the Watermark and the Renaissance are perfect. The Watermark is a gorgeous, elegant spot in downtown Baton Rouge. That wedding reception, that smaller gathering, that meeting space, they can do it. They've kept so much of the history and tradition of that iconic building while modernizing it. The Gregory is a great restaurant inside of the Watermark as well. And then, of course, the Renaissance Hotel, Southtown, right there on Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge. It's more modern. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous hotel property at the Renaissance Hotel where they have meeting space that can accommodate up to 500 people, 7,000 square foot of meeting space, perfectly located right off of Bluebonnet and I-10 It's the Watermark and the Renaissance Hotels in Baton Rouge.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Brought to you by Rouse's, official supermarket of the Saints. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. 4th of July, right around the bend, y'all. Saturday, we celebrate 250 years of America. Red-blooded American fury. You want to go get burgers and dogs and beers and Cokes and everything you get, apple pie, America. You go to Rouse's. What are Rouse's colors? Red and white. I know we need some blue in there, but the point is, it's Rouse's because it's America. Great local retailer. You're getting ready for the 4th of July. Everything you need. Chips and dips and dogs and burgers and buns and drinks and everything. Get on by Rouse's, the official supermarket of America. They're the official supermarket of the Saints. It's Rouse's.com. Rouse's, this feels like home.
Back here after further review on a Wednesday, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Musso in for Moscona. Some sad news yesterday and last night when it was announced that legendary Southern University baseball coach Roger Cador passed away. He was 74 years old. I was not fortunate enough to ever get to meet Roger Cador. I think I spoke to him on the phone one time whenever we had him on this show, but that was very brief. But Roger Cador was one of those guys that the stories were never in short supply. I mean, Roger Cador was and is Southern University baseball. He played baseball at Southern. He coached the program for 33 years, won 2 HBCU national championships in that time, made 11 regionals in that time in the NCAA tournament, and impacted countless lives. Obviously coached Ricky Weeks, who is the most legendary Southern player of all time. And you just never met anybody, and you will never meet anybody that has a bad thing to really say about Coach Roger Cador. And it's not just obviously the impact that he had on Southern and Southern baseball, which again, like the accolades, man, they speak for themselves. But what he was able to do for HBCU baseball in general and the city of Baton Rouge, I think obviously live on. Like if you know college baseball, if you follow college baseball, you know about Roger Cador. I mean, this is a guy who founded the Urban Invitational, which I believe it's under a new name now, but it still exists today. It's a early season tournament that showcases black colleges and universities. It's nationally televised on MLB Network. That Roger Cador did that. So, I mean, just a guy with a profound impact all over the sport of college baseball, all over HBCUs. I mean, is Southern and is a legend in every sense of the word. And I mean, I think you see that when you look at the tributes that have been pouring in. I mean, I saw, forgive me, I think it was on Jacques' Twitter, Jacques Doucet from WFB, obviously, spoke with Coach Paul Maneri, who coached against Roger Cador, Coach Skip Burtman. Like it's that type of impact that he had in that sector. So look, obviously a legend when it comes to Southern University, but a legend and a pillar in college baseball and a legend and pillar in the Baton Rouge community. Coach Roger Cador, he passed away 74 years old. Obviously, may he rest in peace. And, his legacy is still being felt here today, and it will for plenty more years to come, just given the impact that he had on college baseball and the state of Louisiana. Again, Louisiana native. He's from New Roads. So, sad news, man, there. A true legend and a guy that just you never heard anybody say a bad thing about. And you know what? You won't from here on out either. That's just the kind of guy he was. Roger Cador. May he rest in peace. All right, putting a button here on hour number 1 of AFR. Musso in for Moscona. So we have today and tomorrow, and then we are done for the week. We'll observe 4th of July there on Friday We'll be back Monday for a full week of shows there, and kind of really just kind of continue getting you in gear. You know, man, on Monday, we're going to be like a week out from, or two weeks out from SEC football media days, I believe. It's practically here. And that's when we'll obviously really ramp up the football discussion so much. Also, next week we're getting you prepared for the MLB draft. So plenty to still come. But today and tomorrow, we're off on Friday. We'll be back on Monday. Matt will be back. See if I can do a little quick math here for you. In 6.5 shows. So he's out all next week, too. I should just say that way. So you have me all next week. But I'm looking forward to it. It should be an awesome show. Grab a break here. We'll come back. Sports Center will get you caught up on national headlines. When we get back, we're going to talk a little more New Orleans Saints. One unit that really maybe should be under the microscope a little bit more. There's been some additions to try and fix the problems. But, man, this one really cost you at times a year ago. Talk about the Saints special teams unit here when we're back after Sports Center to kick off hour number 2, as well as a college sports year in review to get to in hour 2 as well. It's AFR. Stay tuned.
After further review,